Taig de Roon is the commercial head of Energy Partners Intelligence and joins me for our next discussion, which happens to be on electricity. You'll recall NERSA was on the back foot when Eskom successfully overturned a judgment that halted their increase in tariffs and which clears the way for them to do so. We find out from Taig how that might affect you and how you might be able to mitigate it. Taig, welcome to Breakfast with Refilwe. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Refilwe, and good morning to your listeners. I'm fine, thank you, and yourself?
Of course, no, I'm great. Now, one of the things that we have in the city of Cape Town is, as a provider of electricity, in that last mile to market, to some extent, the increases in electricity have been a little bit lower at City of Cape Town level than they have been at Eskom level. Can you just tell us what the differentiators there are?
So Eskom sit at the top where they are the main provider of electricity in the country, and then you can consider the municipalities to be resellers. So this 15% increase now after this court ruling that we're looking at for 2021 means that the municipalities are going to have to purchase their electricity in bulk 15% higher than normal. So you've got to ask yourself the question, which municipalities in the country are going to be able to absorb that for the consumer and which aren't? So you're right in saying that if you see an Eskom increase of 10%, you may see City of Cape Town, I think this year is sitting at 4.83% increase, which isn't as high. But you have to ask yourself the question, when are these Eskom increases going to stop and how are the municipalities going to absorb this?
Yeah, I mean, there's the ability, in terms of like the nuts and bolts, the rands and cents, the profit and loss. But then I suppose thematically or principally, Tiger, just help me understand. I mean, is it fair that a business can wake up one day and say, due to my own inefficiencies, everything costs more and therefore you have to pay more?
Well, so this is a really complicated topic, and I think South Africans have been on this journey with Eskom for the last 10 years. So there's been a lot of damage done in this last decade of neglect, and Eskom are sitting with a couple years worth of revenue of debt. So we're talking about hundreds of billions of rands. Yeah. And it is not, I don't think it's unfair. NERSA are there to protect the consumer and Eskom are there to provide us with power. And, as experts, I actually really feel sorry for both parties because it is an incredibly complicated thing. And it's not like Eskom just wakes up and says, you know what, I'm looking at this number today. They're also faced with increased fuel costs, increased maintenance costs in the future with debt service funds that are running wild. So either the government needs to step in and make another equity injection, or the consumer is going to be faced with a tariff increase. There's no other way or no other mechanism for them to actually recover the debt.
And there's pressure there at national level as it is. So what do you think about this the pressing increases that are to come? What are some of the tools that we have at our disposal to protect ourselves?
Right. So we're looking at a 10 to 15% increase next year, regardless of whether NERSA appeals now. So there are some things you can do. And specifically, I'm speaking not to the residential off-takers, but more to the larger industrial power users that have complex consumption profiles. There are tariff structures in the country, whether you're on Eskom or a Munich tariff, and you are basically paying unique charges for unique parts of your power, and you can change which tariff structure you're on. It's a bit like a cell phone payment plan. Either you charged for your midnight data, or you charged a standard rate, or you've charged a peak rate. With electricity, it's the same thing. There's different costing structures. And we found that switching to the right structure could save you up to 15% on your annual energy bill.
Wow.
So that's just the costing. That's not doing energy projects. We know that energy projects can reduce your consumption by 30% now. But just a tariff switching to a more optimal costing structure can save a big business millions of rands.
Got you. But not so much for the home.
No, I think for the home users, they are faced with this regardless.
Yes.
But I would say for the industrial guys, all these businesses that are faced with the COVID pandemic restrictions and issues, that right now, if you're struggling for capital and you have cash flow issues like every company right now, then why wouldn't you want to implement a zero capex saving strategy?
Brilliant. And how do I do that? I mean, again, is that something that I take up with the city or with Eskom itself?
So I would say that if you have an engineering team, that maybe you could do it yourself. But if you're not clued up, the layman's man's not going to be able to really go through this process with the municipality or Eskom because it's very technical. So we'll come in and we'll look at your consumption profile through your data. We'll optimize your network access charges, your notified maximum demand. There's all these optimizing charges all over the place for your industrial user. And we've found that we can save 10 to 15% just optimizing that costing structure.
That's incredible. And absolutely welcome in this economy. All right. So we can contact you as industrial users of electricity or, as you said, people who might have projects on the go at Energy Partners Intelligence?
Sure. So if anybody out there is wondering whether they're maybe paying 1 or 2 million rand extra for their annual energy bill, come talk to us.
Happily hand that savings to me.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Tag, thank you so much for that insight. I had no idea. Excellent stuff. I mean, every single business is under the gun at this particular time and could definitely benefit from any support from any corner. So appreciate